Today's program, we are looking at two different issues. The first has to do with the consumer price inflation as being released by the National Bureau of Statistics. Also, we are going to be looking at human capital development in Nigeria. As you all know, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, and the country, we are still largely underdeveloped, despite the fact that we're now the biggest economy on the continent as well. And of course, this can be attributed partly to the unplanned, according to some reports, unplanned efforts towards the development of human capital through education and training. And to give us more insight into how Nigeria can move to take advantage of the human resources that it has to become, to perform up to expectation of the continent. Here in the studio, I'm being joined by Tunde Makun. He is the MD of PPLD International. Thank you for joining me on the program. We do appreciate your time with us. When we look at human capital development, what comes to your mind, especially considering Nigeria's great human resources?
Well, it's the engine of growth, is the engine of driving the wheels of productivity. And there are three major resources: time, energy, and money. So when we're looking at productivity, it's about how do we optimize time, energy, and money. So what we have today is a couple of problems, really. And many of them are not new. The only thing is that, in my opinion, what we're looking at here is a quantum leap, isn't it? And a quantum leap is characterized by transformation. Now, there is a new school of thought that when you treat the workforce as statistics, it's a different result from when you see them as distinct people who are there to add value to the system. And people cannot give what they don't have. So when you look at the symptoms of the business issues, the employee issues, the clients are not satisfied, so they cannot even refer you to prospects. The vision and the mission and the values, they are probably weak or not well defined, and often not correlated with the objectives of the organizations over time. There is misalignment across departments. There is competition that is destructive. System policies and procedures are weak and probably not implemented. Inefficiencies, ineffectiveness, mediocrity, resource allocation, optimization problems, late reporting review, information sharing. There's a lot of that.
You actually have a whole bunch of issues to consider when we're talking about human capital development. But I want us to break this down. We all have employees who work in the public sector and private sector. When you compare how they are, the state of these employees, as the case may be, how would you rate them?
Yeah, clearly the objectives are different. The dynamics are different in the sense that when you look at the public sector, there is a mentality for, what do you call it now? You call it mentality that makes you think that you deserve something. It's your right, And the other one has to work for the money. So it's very strange that we have such a problem. And what the private sector does, which is different from what the public sector does, is that it has to generate its own income. You understand? And at the end of the day, the rules are there, the dynamics are there, the metrics are there. The reporting lines need to define why what you're doing today is better than what you did tomorrow.
In other words, when we look at the public sector and the private sector, they're two different environments.
Absolutely.
In terms of human capital development. And in the public sector, we have this, what has been regarded as ownership mentality. It belongs to me.
Absolutely.
But shouldn't that be developed across board in terms of treating the business, the job as your own, and that way it enables you to give in the very best to it?
That's exactly one of the things that we're talking about, the job ownership concept. Now, people think that if I work for someone in a certain way, one day when I own my business, I'll work in a different way. It doesn't work like that because of the way we are programmed. We are programmed human beings from very little. You understand? We're used to things. And that's the way it's going to be, because you cannot keep thinking about every little thing you need to do. So most of the things that we're used to are in the subconscious program, and it's about 95% of the time. That's what we do. You understand? The 5% that we use in the conscious is very inefficient at the end of the day. So the quantum leap of transformation is found in the subconscious. So which means that when you recruit people, you must be able to align their values and their missions and their visions with that of the organization. I mean, if I love fast cars, the best place to work is where there's auto shows, for instance. You understand? If I am a very extroverted person, don't put me at the back door. I'm going to run the place down eventually. So it all starts with when you open the door for the employee to come in. You know, so you want to be sure that the person is there with all the mind to put in all the efforts to get the results that you both agree you need.
In a way, do you think that we need to be trained in that respect? Because if an employee comes to, gets a job, and looking at the nature of that person, you want to ensure that the person is fit to do the job. Does training come into place? Does education also come into place here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because, your certificate has a very short lifespan, really, especially now that we have information overload, you understand? But there's a distinction here. The training that we're used to is this, like what I can say, the software packages training. But underneath is the operating systems. Most of the problem comes from the operating systems. It's about how you think, how you feel, how you interact with people, you understand? Now, so if I think, for instance, let me give you a scenario. In typical offices, maybe we're 5, you keep what you know, I keep what I know, and I think that if you mess up, it puts me on top, right? Now, at the end of the day, as a team, we're not doing so well. So if I do a subconscious reprogramming, I will make you feel that you are not going to lose anything by releasing what you have. And if 5 of us share all the details of the technical competencies we have, the overall results will be quantum.
Okay, but sometimes people are of the view that in an environment where, you try to encourage teamwork, but at the end of the day, sometimes someone is being singled out to do well above every other person. How do you create the kind of balance there to ensure that if I do well, it's for the benefit of everybody in the team?
Yeah, so I take you back again to subconscious reprogramming. Now, people live either out of lack mentality or abundance mentality, and it's been there from very little. So all of these things need reprogramming again. Go back to the operating systems. What makes you feel that one you have will not even become obsolete in your hands in a couple of weeks and months? Now, but again, there's a culture side of it. In my organizations, for instance, I keep telling them that whether we're selling goods or services, you know what everyone is selling? Customer experience. So that's the first thing that I put everybody through. So a culture has to evolve where you know that the first thing is you imagine you are doing business with your own company and you come here to spend 30 minutes. By the time you leave, would you wish to come back? That's first level. Would you actually recommend this business to other people? So it's a process, you understand? Now, it means, therefore, that if you follow the conventional where you say maybe 20 people are supporting 80 people's inefficiencies, overall is very inefficient. Why can't I have half of the population individually accounting for their outputs? It's in a concept called responsibility. Because responsibility, as we now know it, is not about blame or shame or guilt or fault. It's about how do I impact a situation that leaves everybody empowered. So if I have a team of 5 and you are not doing well for whatever reason, I go on the level of empathy. Maybe that's not the way you used to be. What's wrong with you? You have a domestic issue, a financial issue, whatever. Now, it all adds up because you're a human being. So what we really want to achieve is how you align who you are at work with who you are at play. You understand? So if you have an emotional problem, for instance, it might affect your work output in a day. But guess what? If you go back to original definition, the time, energy, and money, when you lose time or you mismanage your emotion, it's going to affect your overall productivity. But guess what? What's really critical is that if I share my knowledge with you, it doesn't diminish me. It actually elevates me. If at the end of the day we all do better, guess who's gonna get the credit amongst us? You know the source. And the more I know, and the more I share, the more the happier we are.